Hey Maths Legends, today we're going to look at graphs never lie. And what we're going to be looking at is ways that we can identify that people may draw or construct graphs that might be misleading and make us look at their agendas.
So when we're looking at graphs, guys, sometimes people can draw graphs to be misleading or to try and take us down the garden path. What I want to do is I want to take you through three different graphs here and have a look at them more closely, what the proper graph looks like and how sometimes people can manipulate these graphs to try and get their point across. So if we have a look in the first one, which is spelling scores, you'll see the three different schools. Now, you'll see at the start here, this is misleading because the graph on the right here, you can see we start off at 94%. By starting off at 94%, you can see that it looks like Upton Elite School, just here in the middle, actually has way better spelling scores than Central Primary and Melville Community Schools. Now, if we actually look at the one on the right, however, you can see that because we started at 0 down the bottom right here, you can see that the scores at the top are actually much closer together, and you can see that there's not really much of a difference between the three schools. Having a look at the second one, we look at the bottom of the graph on the left, you can see straight away that we start at 0 on the right hand side. So it's got nothing to do with the measurements on the side. What it has done though is they've picked and chosen what years they use. And you can see here we've got 2003, here 2005, so there's a gap of 2. Then it goes to 2008, which is a gap of 3. Then it goes to a gap of 2, and it goes to a gap of 1. Now, the reason they do this is because it's talking about the city crime. So obviously here they're trying very hard to try and tell us that the crime is increasing in their city. Now, if you have a look at the graph on the right, this is the actual graph now. And you can see that they've put every single year from 2003 to 2011. You can actually see that the graph goes up and down. See, it starts off here at 10, goes up to 30, comes back down to 20, goes back up to 25, comes back down to 10 again. You can see it's moving up and down a fair bit, but you know, unfortunately, it doesn't quite look as demanding of the increase in crime as what the first graph does. The last one is a pie chart, and you can see here it's Zoomer is the company, and Zoomer's trying to tell us that they have the most amount of sales of small cars. Now you can see in the first graph here that they're only comparing themselves to two other companies. They haven't labelled the companies, but they're telling us that there's two other companies that they sell more cars than those two other companies. If you look here at the graph on the right, however, this is showing all of the different car sales between January and December and all the different companies' cars. And you can see then that Zoomer down here is only a very, very small component of that very large graph. You can see whatever company or car that's in this section or this section, or even this section, or even this section, or even this section, and even this section are much larger than Zoomer. So if we look at the same graphs again, if we were going to ask you the question, who do you think has funded or sourced or is the one that's presenting this data to make it look more appealing, who would be in the first one for the spelling scores? Well, it would have to be Upton Elite School because they want to try and make out that their school is so much better than spelling. So they would have been the people who constructed this graph, or they would have been the person who funded this graph. If we look here at the crime in Mega City, and we can say that it's going up, it's obviously saying there are more crimes reported. We can also say that it's been increasing over the year. So the person who funded or had done this at the crime would be maybe some insurance companies, could have been some of the residents who want to see more police. Definitely wouldn't have been the policemen though, because if the police would have been funding to say that the crime rates are going up, would mean that they're not doing their job properly. And the last one here would obviously be Zoomer. And the reason that Zoomer wants to show that their car sales have been incredibly good, where we can see by the second graph that they're not actually that good just by them choosing only a couple of companies to compare themselves with. All right, here's three more. I've got A, B, and C. What I want you to do is have a look at these graphs. I want you to answer two questions for me. I want you to answer, what is the missing section, or why are these graphs misleading? And two, who do you think is the person who's funded or sponsored or is the one who constructed this graph? Stop the video now, please, gents, and have a go. Okay, let's have a look at the first one here. House prices in green view. Now you can see here that it's going up in thousands. It's 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. You can see that in each of these 4 columns, it is getting larger. So we've gone from being 200,000 to being 400,000. Now the part that's misleading is the fact it doesn't show all the years. So straight away, the misleading part is the years, so down the bottom here. But the person who's probably saying that these houses would be the people that live in Greenview, maybe the real estate agents looking to sell your house for more, maybe even the council, the local council, because the local council like to make sure that if your house price is going up, then they charge you more for your rates or to own your land. The second one here is teen mobile phone ownership. So you can see here all the years are the same, but if you look at this, the y-axis, you can see it starts on 80%. So it has increased over the 4 years. However, it's only really increased between 81 and 85, which is only 4%. So it's quite misleading. It's only very, very small percentage that has increased in the ownership of mobile phones. Who do you think is funding this? I reckon it must be the mobile phone companies. Because the mobile phone companies want every young person, teen in particular, to go, I need a mobile phone. Everybody's getting one. The other ones, that person it could be is the teens. They might also be showing this sort of graph to try and convince mum or dad that they need a mobile phone. The last one here, if we have a look, the part that is misleading here, we've got 100, 200, 300, 400 on the side, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. It's the size of the bar. We see that realistically it's gone from 200 to 400, but by making the bar wider like it has here, it's made 2010 look a whole lot bigger. Now, who do I think is going to be, the funder or the person that's produced this graph? I think it would have had to have been the Sunrise Bay Tourism Department, and they would have been trying to show you that there's more people visiting there and it must be a really great place to visit. Gents, make sure that when you're doing your success criteria for our lesson that you look at those things. So talk about the different kinds of ways that people manipulate or change graphs to help suit their cause or their need or push their case. So things like not starting at 0, not picking every year, changing the size of the bar, only comparing against a couple. They're the sorts of things I want you to write down. The other thing too is that the fact that every single graph, there is somebody that has funded it or has chosen to draw it that particular way to try and get across their agenda, which is that theirs is better, that they've sold more, that things are on the increase, that things are on the decrease. All right, guys, I'll see you for our next lesson.